Hello there. In today's video I want to present to you the most recent iteration of my Panasonic MC-3500 mountain bike. I've bought this bike in January of this year for 80 euros. In my first video about the bike I introduced some plans of what parts to add to the bike over time. Now I would say these plans have been implemented and the bike is finished. So most recently I've added the Rune Hilt bars to this bike. These handlebars are 615mm wide drop bars, so very wide. I think the handlebars follow some trend recently, with handlebars and also drop bar handlebars becoming wider and wider. So there would have been some alternatives, such as the cross towel rack bar, but this one would have been so expensive that I didn't even consider it anymore. With 120 euros the Rune Hilt bars were still within my budget, so I got these and so far I'm very happy with them. But why add drop bars to this bike at all? So, as mentioned before, it's a 56cm mountain bike with 26-inch wheels, and the top tube length is 58 centimeters, a horizontal top tube. And these specs are still a bit too small for me. So I've been riding this bike around with upright handlebars for multiple months now, and I had a 100mm stem, but still the bike was too short for me. Maybe with a longer stem it would have worked, but I don't like this so much aesthetically, so I decided to go for drop handlebars. But in general I don't like drop bars too much. I think they're not very comfortable, and especially if they're too low on the bike, I don't like this riding position of leaning down and then also being very stretched on the bike. So I decided to just keep the stem I was using, which also is very high, and then mount very wide handlebars with a wide top area, which is 50 centimeters here, and an even wider flared bottom area, which is 615mm here, or 62 centimeters roughly. What gave me a bit of a headache with these handlebars is that they are 26mm clamp. So 26mm quill stems with long shafts are very hard to get and also expensive if you find them. So I bought one by Diacomp for roughly 60 euros, but in the end, when trying out the original stem I had on this bike with a 25.4mm clamp size, the handlebar just fit in there well enough. So I decided I'm just going to use the 25.4mm stem. As you can see here, I am doing my work commute by the river Isar, which is 20 kilometers roughly from Giesing in Munich to Garching Research Center in the north of Munich, and this bike is perfect for this commute. So I have a rear rack on the bike, and the drop bars allow me now to go fast with, let's say, 25-26 kilometers per hour on average in a very comfortable position, and also with alternative hand positions, so I have multiple options how to grab the handlebar. And with the fat tires I can easily roll over everything here on the way. I was inspired for this build by some other YouTubers who have converted 26-inch mountain bikes or ATBs to Dropbar mountain bikes, which are Toasty Rides, who converted a Specialized, I think, with the Crust towel rack bars, and then also Eric Marv, who I think built up a Bridgestone MB2, which looked really nice. Also with Rune Hilt tires, which might be much faster and much more comfortable than these sluggish Maxxis DTH I have on my bike. Next to the Rune Hilt bar, the very special thing on this bike here are the bar end shifters. These are Suntour Barcon shifters with power ratchet mechanism. So there's a little ratchet in there which has exactly 25 clicks for shifting downwards with the rear derailleur and upwards with the front derailleur. So in one direction you have these little clicks as an orientation for finding the gears, which is very helpful, especially for the rear derailleur, where you have these 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 gears. I have 7 gears here, and the Suntour Barcon easily covers the range of these 7 gears. I think it could also do 8 or 9 gears, maybe even 10. And it's easy to find the gears with these shifters. It's very rare that I have let's say an empty shift where I land in between 2 gears. Found these shifters used on Kleinanzeigen, so the German Craigslist online, and I paid I think 40 euros for them, and I'm very happy that I bought them. I've never since then seen them appear again online used, so they might be very rare. Alright, slowly time for a bike check, I would say. So I picked a nice place on my way back from work to check this bike out with you. It's a 56 centimeter Panasonic MC-3500 from 1990. The seat tube is 56 centimeters long and the top tube is 58 centimeters long, which I think gives this bike a perfect geometry for a drop bar conversion for somebody in my size. Here's the drivetrain where I updated the original 300 EX components for some nicer ones. And here are the aforementioned Suntour Barcon shifters. This light was mounted on the bike originally, and the cantilever brakes were added by me. The seat post is only 26 millimeters wide and the seat tube has 28.6 millimeters outer diameter. So we have very thick steel here. It's probably not the most lightweight steel frame. I love the FC MT60 crankset and also these XC3 pedals by MKS. The front wheel had to be replaced at some point by the previous owner, and it's not an Araya but a Rigida rim in the same width. 2 spoke nipples are rusted, but I don't see a problem with that. Here you can see also the generator or the dynamo, which is running on the rim, and it does a very good job even with my LED rear light. And here you can see the Tubus logo classic in stainless steel I bought used and added to this bike. I think it's a beautiful rack with its parallel rails, and also the stainless steel patina looks very nice. The Dior DX rear derailleur is, in my opinion, the prettiest late 80s or early 90s mountain bike rear derailleur. The rear wheel has an Araya rim, also 32 millimeters wide, and it's a bit more worn than the front wheel, but still fine. The 300LX front derailleur is the only component I kept from the original shifting components. And the DTH tires, as you can see here. I like them for how wide they are, and I've never had a flat so far with them, but they're also not the fastest tires, and they feel quite sluggish, I have to say. But for the price I paid for them, I'm very happy. Here's the Brooks B17 saddle, and over time it was slowly developing a new shape perfectly suited for my butt, so very happy with this saddle. I noticed it's a bit more comfortable in an upright position than with a drop bar, but it's still fine and very comfortable. One more appreciation shot for the nice paint job of this bicycle. I really like the red color with these white sprinkles. And here finally we have the handlebars again. So very wide and very comfortable. As brake levers I used some standard Shimano road brake levers. And as mentioned before, the Suntour Barcon shifters. I messed up this part of the bar tape because I cut it at the wrong side, but otherwise I did a good job, I think, for somebody who doesn't wrap bar tape very often. Alright, that was the bike check of my Dropbar ATV. So let me know in the comments if you have some questions about it. I didn't cover all parts in detail here. And let me know if you also have a Dropbar MTB. Let's ride again. As mentioned before, the bike also has lights, so just attach the dynamo to the rim and then we will have front and rear light. And the front still has a classic light bulb. The rear has an LED light, and I will probably also change the front light to an LED one day. Here's a little brake check. And shifting. It's a bit unusual at first to reach out all the way to the bar ends for shifting, but I got used to it very quickly and it doesn't feel unstable with these wide handlebars. And to mention braking again, I think usually drop bars or braking with drop bar levers is a bit less powerful than having normal brake levers. But here I think the braking power is still very nice. I mean, I was able to immediately block the rear wheel here on the gravel. Alright, time for some enjoyment here at the River Isar. And of course also some more nice shots. And with these fat tires I can even ride here on the stones near the river. So I just love mountain bike tires upwards from 55 millimeters. No problem. Then it was time for a bit chilling out at the river. Also taking a bath in the evening sun. And finding more nice spots. Other people are probably going on vacation, which is also fine. I'm going home, but this commute sometimes feels like permanent vacation because it's so enjoyable. Almost feels like a bike tour every day. Here I'm underneath the highway bridge and had more stunning evening light. By the way, I bought these very nice handlebars at my own expense, and I'm not sponsored for this video. Back in Munich, I got some dinner at a Vietnamese restaurant, and that was highly appreciated because I was very hungry at that point. So stay tuned for the bonus material if you want to know what the expenses of the bike were. And otherwise, that's it for today. Thank you and bye bye. So here we have the calculations. Let me make them a bit bigger for you and let's start. So the basic bike was the first expense and it cost me 80 euros in January this year from the first owner. I bought the crankset and the rear derailleur from one guy in Munich who polishes up used mountain bike parts, and the prices were quite high but appropriate for the condition the parts were in. Then the Maxxis DTH tires, what do I have to say? Very cheap, 18 euros a piece, and they have ton walls and are very fat. Then the Tubos logo rear rack I bought for 75 euros used. The Calloy stem cost me only 13 euros. It's not a very high quality stem and I will be careful with it and don't do hardcore single track. Then the Rune Hilt bar was the most expensive part on this bike. I bought it at Guten Biken in Munich. The brake levers are very standard Shimano road brake levers. That cost me around 30 euros. Then these very rare Suntour power shifters cost me 45 euros. Red Shimano shift cables, standard bar tape. The Brooks B17 I also bought used for a very cheap price in my opinion. Also these XT cantilever brakes with cool stop mountain bike pads, and apparently I can't spell brakes. And finally these MKS XT3 pedals, and all the parts I can't really list here because I don't know the prices. So total is 662, and I think it's a good price for a nice bike like this, which is very unique rides like a charm and rolls over everything. Thank you and bye bye.